How you going, guys? So today's build, I'm going to be building a homemade double end seesaw. So these are my springs. I'm going to be using 4 of these springs, 2 on each side. So have a look at this wide view. So I've just tacked up this frame here. So I'm building it pretty big. Building it at 4 meters long, which is going to be a big sucker. It's going to be a massive seesaw. So in the center of it, obviously I'm going to have the 2 springs on either side, and I'm going to down here have a hinge pivot system, which I'm going to be using this 200mm flat, which I got. I'm going to cut that up and make a hinge system. Basically, I'm going to be welding a plate along these 2 base plates here with a hinge plate coming up with a bar in the middle running right across. Basically, it's going to hinge on that hinge with a spring on the side, and it's going to create plenty of bounce, plenty of fun for the kiddies. So in the middle, I'm going to have a full sheet of 24 by 1200 sheet of probably black form ply, just like on my bench over there, and then capped off with this 20 by 20 angle. All galvanized, of course, because it's going to be out in the weather. So I'm just at the stage of finally just set it up. Now it's a matter of just welding it together, and then fun goes on. These cross members, it's going to be one here and one about here. Basically that's going to be support for underneath the sheet that I'm going to be putting on the top there. And then when I place these springs, there'll be one right in the middle as well. That'll just give good support for that sheet. Now the sheet's going to be about 17mm, 18mm. So it'll be a pretty solid sheet, and as I said, surrounded in that aluminium. Galvanized angle will just provide protection from feet. So I'm going to go ahead and tack that in. Should be pretty cool. Alright, check out this hinge system I made. Look at that. Well, obviously that's not going where it's going to sit on here, but essentially that's going to be welded onto the springs, just like that. See that there? Those springs upside down so they don't get confused. And that spring system is going to be hooked onto here. So spring's going to be here, and that's going to be welded onto the side. Obviously it's going to be a little bit more down here, so don't get confused. So just wanted to show you what I've done. Now I'm going to weld this bar here is a I think a 45, and that's a 35. The inside diameter of that, it's about 40, 46 I think. So it's a couple of mil play in there. I did that on purpose, just so you can jam some grease down there, a bit of grease and oil. And I might even put a grease nipple, I don't know yet. I'll think about it. So basically, now I made this a distance apart specifically. See my finger there? We don't want little fingers in there getting chopped off like a scissor. See out there? That's a little scissor action there. So purposely made that a distance apart on both sides. It's a little bit wider than that, because safety first. I know we're talking springs here, and the springs are going to be there, but the springs won't. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to watch your kids, don't you? But it's all done for that purpose. So basically, they'll weld it all up. I'm going to weld this pipe to these 2 plates here, and then that way that will be independent of this and this shaft here. So getting there. So I'll give you guys a good little view of that. hinge system, just so you guys can build one yourself. Now there's many different ways that I could have done this hinge. I could have even, used, this is 200mm plate, sorry. I could have used less. I could use like a 150, that would have probably been enough. But you got to think about aesthetics. Like this whole thing's 4 meters long, and this beam here is 125mm. So you put a plate there that's 150s, aesthetically it's just going to look stupid. So you got to think of aesthetics as well as functionality and strength. And obviously a 200mm plate at 6mm thick, it's going to be a hell of a lot more stronger than a 150mm plate. And at the end of the day, most of the weight and tension will be taken by the springs. This hinge system is just to pivot it, to support it, going back and forth. So at the end of the springs are what's going to be taking most of the impact. So looking good. Bit of welding to go. That's going to be looking fine. Math time. Okay, now the distance between here and here, and the top of the spring I should say, is about 40 centimeters. So you got to make sure your pivot point is precisely in the center. Give and take. But it's got to be in the center because those springs are going to pivot more in the center, if that makes sense. So I've measured distance between where that's going to weld onto the spring and where it's going to weld onto this frame here, and it's going to be 20 centimeters. Alright, just remember that when you go to build your own. Now I've just gone ahead and tacked on that bit of round bar in the middle. Now instead of trying to get that precise on the workbench, put it on your frame like I have, bolt it up with clamps, and then go ahead and tack on that bar. Because there's no way that you're going to be able to get that precise and tack in the right spot and still pivot freely like that. See how it's pivoting freely? It's because it's not twisted, it's not an angle. Look down the top here, and I've pretty much got that centered. So say for example, if this side here seems to be twisted more out this way, and you just got to twist that back, and that twists these two plates here to be able to be aligned perfectly. And see how I can push that back and forth with ease. That means there's no twists between these two plates and that bar. Alright, just remember that when you build your own. Okay, check that out. That is the center board for people can stand up, have a bit of fun. Now that's 70mm form ply, so it's got that black laminate coating on it, and I've edged it with some galvanized angle, just so feet don't destroy the edges, and weather doesn't destroy the edge. Obviously this is going to be slippery when it's wet, so put a grip tape on there, or you can even paint it with that sandpaper paint. I've welded up completely the little hinge system, welded it all up so it's all set in place, all ready to be put on. That took me a bit of time to do all that. So that's all done. Now I'm on to the seats. The seats are going to be 40mm, 400mm, and not going to be made out of that. I'm just using that as an example. I've got another sheet of form ply there, so haven't bolted that down yet. I'm not sure whether to weld it on here or run some bolts through it. Don't know yet. I'm more or less leaning towards welding it on. I think it'll just look better rather than having bolts all the way through the beam. I just don't want to weld it on just in case you need to take the board off and replace it, or if you want to paint it. Anyway, I'll think about it. But yeah, so it's coming up pretty well. Back view. Whoa, look at that. Fantastic. I'm excited! Voila! There we go. There is a hinge assembly waiting to be bolted and welded on. Dun 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 dun. Check that out. That's snazzy. So, gone ahead, welded this plate to the springs. Go ahead and put this bar in here, so this whole part down the bottom here will be concreted. Now just apply a bit of extra strength to the assembly. Anyway, that's one more to go. Boom, voila, look at those handles and the feet rest. Doesn't that just look superb? Both ends. Alright, so take a good look at what I've done. What I've done is use the same materials that I used to make the hinge, and basically put the handle front, or this side back, and the leg rest forward. And distance between here and here is, I think, 34 centimeters. But no, that's looking quite. One side on. Still waiting on the fourth spring. Got the third spring there. Just waiting on the bloody fourth spring, so I can complete the same thing. But it is looking fantastic. It's got a bit of industrial look, but you know, that's okay because I built it strong. It's going to last 100 years, and you can paint it, put a bit of a colour on it. So what I will do is I will definitely put a support bar between here and there, just to support the weight of people standing in the middle. I will do that. I just gotta wait until I can weld these on, and so I know how much room I've got to play with. Weld it on the side here. It's starting to take shape. Here it is, guys, check it out, all completed. We've got the deck on, springs on. So if you have a look here, we're buried from here to there in the ground, concrete. I put that extra pole there for concrete to anchor to. So the whole lot is about 4 meters long by 1.2 wide. It's got the motion already. So as you guys can see, it's got that angle, the right distance between the spring and the end of it. Actually, it might be a little bit too soft, but at the end of the day that's okay, because the springs are only there to assist in the motion of the swinging seesaw. When the customer installs it, I will endeavour to get you another video of how it looks all set up. So guys, if you've got any questions, hit me up in the comments, like, subscribe, see you in the next video.